Well, folks, bring on Gonzaga. The Hawkeyes are riding high tonight, and I'm joined by Coach Gary Close. Iowa with a 110-87 defeat of Maryland. And Gary, you and I just chatted here for a couple of moments before we went live. I don't really know how to explain what we just saw, other than the fact that so far it looks like the change that Fran made in the starting lineup may have started to ignite something with Jordan Bohannon. Now, I know we're extrapolating on that a bit. We need to see a bigger sample size, but boy, how good was Jordan Bohannon tonight?
He was really good. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of comments of getting him out of the lineup tonight. That's for sure. And I think Fran deserves a lot of credit with sticking with him, which I'm not surprised. I mean, the kid's been doing this for a long time. You knew it was going to happen eventually. Hopefully it'll, give him some confidence as he goes. Sometimes a game like that can get you going. So there were a lot of wide open shots. That's a nice way to get out of a shooting slump, is having some big looks, and he got them and he buried them.
So yeah, let's talk about that. So the 10 made threes for Jordan Bohannon, and I honestly wasn't really listening to Robbie Hummel or Benetti, although I think both guys are really good. So was this a record in the Xfinity Center? Do you know, Gary?
Yeah, it was a record in their arena. It was one off the Big Ten record of 11.
Okay, so there's obviously multiple facets to this. Obviously, Jordan Bohannon has been missing a lot of threes. Even his open attempts recently, he's been missing. But I mean, how do you allow him to be that wide open that many times? I'm not taking credit away from Bohannon, but Maryland did not defend him well at all.
I think they were asleep when they were going over Bohannon in the scouting report. I mean, he was open. There were so many breakdowns. That's a guy you can't lose, period. I mean, you don't help off him very much. You don't lose sight of him. And boy, they lost sight of him a lot. And he made it pay for it. So it's, and his teammates did a good job of finding him. So it was a combination of a lot of things, but you got to put it in the basket, even if you're open. And to his credit, he did. I think the ones he missed were the ones that were contested. I think he didn't miss very many open ones. So I think his shot selection was better. It's probably easier. It was better because they were so wide open. But I think he's forced some, and that's a difficult shot. A lot of times you think you shoot bad, then you go back and look at your shots, and you didn't take very many good ones. Those are harder to make. So tonight he had a lot of real good looks, and he did a great job of making them.
And I anticipate we'll have a few calls this evening, so we're gonna try to hit these calls fast and hard. Let's take our first one here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Corey, it's the real MVP.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I didn't realize Caitlin Clark's dominance went over to the men's side.
We're seeing a trickle down effect, I think.
I know. This might be some trickle down stuff. I mean, is there any phase you could say went wrong today? I mean, it just felt like everything went right for him today.
Well, I'm sure, Gary, as a coach, if you're looking at tape, you're going to find some things. I didn't think – I hope nobody gets mad that I'm going to say this. I didn't think Iowa played that great defensively in the first half. I just didn't think they played very good defensively. Gary, do you have any thoughts on that? But
yeah, no, I didn't think they did either. It was they didn't have to. They outscored them. But Maryland shot well from three. I bet they made 13 or 14 threes, which is way too much. And they got a lot of hoops in the first half around the rim. There weren't too many jump shots that they had to make. So, but I think they did a better job in the second half.
Yeah, 14 threes made for Maryland, 14 and 26.
Oh, that's a lot.
And Iowa with 19. But you're right. Defensively, there's still things to clean up. I mean, they're not going to score 110 every night. And usually 87 usually give up 87 will get you beat. Now, it's hard because when you're up 30, Gary, you and I have talked about this. You let off the gas. It's just a natural inclination as a player, is it not?
Yeah, no doubt. And the possessions are coming fast because people are scoring easily. So it's going to be a higher scoring game because there's going to be more possessions. But it was first 100 wins, and we got there first.
Yeah, it was quite the feat. So, a few games ago, everyone was saying I was not going to make the tournament and all that stuff. I'm 95% sure they're going to make the tournament. Now, what are you predicting as of now?
Well, I think they've got a good shot. They've got work to be done for sure. But it's right there in front of them. I think their more difficult games are at home, where they're tough to beat. No game in this league is easy. This was an exception. I think Maryland's kind of packed it in for the year. At least they look like that tonight. And there'll be other teams that are going to be playing that are trying to do the same thing they are, of getting as many wins as possible. So they're not going to be easy, but they got a path in front of them that they can handle. And if they do, I think they can get in there, and that would be a great accomplishment for a team that lost as many players as they did.
Yeah, and for the record, I'll just say I think they're. I mean, I thought they were going to get in even after they fell down to 4-6 prior to that game at Ohio State. And of course, who knows what would happen there? It gets canceled or postponed. This was a very favorable stretch. I did not expect Iowa to win by whatever they won by 23, but I did expect Iowa. This is a game where Iowa, I felt, needed to win on the road. But I said that on the road at Rutgers, Gary. I said it on the road against Penn State, and we talked about it. Road wins are tough to come by in this conference.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, for sure.
So, and real MVP as it relates to Maryland, I agree with Gary. It just didn't seem like they were engaged at all. And I was frankly surprised. Danny Manning he had 2 timeouts early in that second half, and he kind of just let it go, let it play out. I was a bit surprised by that, Gary. Did you feel like there maybe should have been a little bit more intervention there?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It didn't. That part I didn't catch it with, but I think it's been a tough year for them. You lose your coach halfway through the year, and it's difficult. I feel for him. He was a terrific player. He's a good coach, and hopefully he'll get another opportunity somewhere. But it's not an easy thing to do, especially in a league like the Big Ten. So you got to feel for him a little bit.
Doesn't sound like you envy the position he's in, Coach Close.
No, it's tough. You're changing leadership right in the middle of the year, and you're dealing with that, and it's a young team, and it's a difficult league. It's a tough. We went through it at Wisconsin. We lost Coach Ryan, retired. I don't know what, it wasn't quite as far along as Turgeon was, but it took us a while to get regrouped. It's just kind of a shock, and then you got to kind of regroup, and it's a different voice, and so it's not an easy thing to do.
Well, one of the things I want to ask is, since that Ohio State game did get postponed, they did get upset against Rutgers. Now, is there a missed opportunity maybe, since Ohio State may not be in the top 25, or does that really matter if they're ranked or not?
That doesn't make any difference to the resume. I mean, the resume is going to be based off of net rankings, and your net ranking is going to move how it's going to move by the end of the season. I mean, if we're just looking at quadrant 1, quadrant 2 victories, I think Ohio State's going to be a quadrant 1 win. If you win on the road, Gary, they would have to collapse for that not to be a quadrant 1 win for Iowa.
Yeah, correct? Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think they will. They did let that one slip away last night, but that's
Rutgers
a pretty good team.
Rutgers is
hard. Rutgers is tough to beat. Yeah, no, they've beaten some teams there for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll drop a lot because of it.
Rutgers blew out Michigan State over the weekend. They're just ridiculous at home. They can't win on the road, but they are ridiculously good at home. So, No, I think whenever that game gets played, anticipate it getting played, it'll be an opportunity for Iowa for a quad 1 win.
And the next thing I would like to ask is, Corey, you've been kind of iffy on Michigan. They didn't look good at Penn State at all. I'm thinking more of they're going to at least get 1 out of 2 against Michigan.
Well, Iowa lost.
I'm not sure if your opinion's changed on that.
Well, Iowa lost at Penn State.
Michigan isn't this world beater team that I think you've left them up to be. I think they're at best middle of the pack.
I think Iowa can. I think Iowa will beat Michigan next Thursday. I mean, I don't. Certainly they. I mean, Hunter Dickinson's going to be a handful, but that team has struggled. I don't think Gary they've ever recovered. I don't know if you have thoughts on Michigan. They've never really recovered from their early season COVID issues.
Yeah, it's been a battle uphill. I actually thought they were starting to play a little bit better up until the other night. They weren't great at Penn State, but they're dangerous. They're dangerous. You know, that's a team that won a lot of games last year. They got a couple of guys that have been through it. I think Iowa's got a good chance of beating them, but it's not going to be easy. Like Corey said, they got a handful in the middle. That guy's starting to play a little better, Dickinson, and the guard is experienced. So, and they're desperate, like a lot of teams. They need wins. So it's not like you're going to play a team that's not motivated. So. They're going to have to put it this way. They're going to have to play well to beat them. They're not going to play poorly and beat them. They're going to have to play well, and hopefully they will.
Oh, yeah. They need effort. They need effort on both sides of the ball in order to beat them. No doubt against that.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw what no effort would do when you lose to Penn State. So you can't beat Penn State without effort. You can't beat a whole lot of teams without effort.
Especially once you get to postseason play. That's why I'm hopeful that I'm sure Fran and the staff will do that. I'll give them a benefit of the doubt on that. I still don't think defensively they were very good tonight, but you're nitpicking when you win by 27, but they gave up 87 points. So now again, a lot of those points were in that second half when the game was out of reach. I get that, but no, defensively, I'm still there's a big question mark in my mind. I joked around at the beginning of the show, bring on Gonzaga. I still have question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Corey, since you brought up Gonzaga, I'm not sure if they're number one. I mean, Purdue's looking pretty nice right now. Yeah,
you're Auburn. I know these people on the show don't want to hear us discuss this, but I'll just say one thing about it, Drill MVP. Your Auburn hype train kind of derailed and plowed into a cement mixer yesterday. I think
so did Houston. So
yeah, so did Houston, and I was not high on Houston. So. Well,
but you did get Duke wrong, so
Yeah, Duke lost at home to Virginia. Yeah, you're right. No, I'm happy. I'm happy that Duke lost at home to Virginia. That helps Iowa. So, but you're right.
How's Utah State doing?
They're Iowa's only quad one win right now. I think they're
really. Indiana moved down. I believe I think Utah State is around 45, so they're hanging on to quad one status right now. That's it's going to be tough because you've kind of, in your all's position, you kind of got to watch every team, because if somebody upsets a team in the tournament, shrinks the bubble, or the bubble, it's a very fluid situation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
this time
absolutely.
Of year.
I was watching Santa Clara St. Mary's last night, and I'm thinking, do I root for Santa Clara? Because I know that I don't think they're a bid stealer at this point, but St. Mary's is probably, I think Lunardi's got them as an 8 or a 9, so it would take a lot for them to fall off. But obviously, you don't want too many bids from the West Coast Conference and the like. So, yeah, it gets to that time of year where every game is important.
Oh, yeah, and especially in these mid-tier conferences like the A-10, the Valley, and stuff like that. So, it's going to be tough down the stretch. Final thing I will say is currently Michigan is beating Purdue 17-10. So it's tough to win on the road.
Absolutely. Let's see how that game plays out. Appreciate the call, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Good talking to you and Coach Close.
All right. Have a great night.
You.
Appreciate it. All right, Coach. I want to get back to the stats here. We talked about Jordan, but let's spend a moment talking about the efficiency of Keegan Murray. We seem to say this every single night here, but he kind of gets overshadowed by the performance of Jordan. But how good was Keegan tonight? Second straight game where he was good on both ends.
Yeah, just got to look at his line. He gets 30 points on 14 shots. That's high efficiency. Yeah, it's good to see. His great year continues, and he's fun to watch. He's getting even better around the rim, finishing things off in contact and playing with a lot of confidence. And that's good. I mean, that's you need a guy like that, especially when you get into tight games and need big buckets. There's a guy you can go to. So very encouraging.
And Gary, once again, Iowa with 9 turnovers. I mean, that you score 110 and walk away on the road with just 9 turnovers. I just think that's unbelievable. And I'm not watching every other Big Ten game, but that's got I'll look these stats up while we take this next call, because I would venture to say Iowa's probably leading the league in least amount of turnovers in Big Ten play. Is that far-fetched to believe?
No, they'll be right there. There are some teams that do handle the ball well. Wisconsin will be right there with them. But they don't nearly have as many possessions as Iowa does normally. So obviously with more possessions, you got a better chance to turn the ball over. So we've talked about that for a while. To be as high scoring and as fast as they play and still handle the ball like they do shows the discipline that they've got and how fundamentally sound they are. It's fun to watch.
So, okay, I'll just tell you, and I know we got our caller on the line here. Iowa right now leads the league in turnover margin. And let me bring up this other stat. They also lead the league in assist to turnover ratio. In second place in both categories is Wisconsin. So you hit it on the head, Gary, but Iowa number 1 in both categories. Let's take our next call here. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Doug from Ames, Iowa.
Hey, Doug. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. First, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. The passing of Mac McCausland and what he meant to Iowa basketball and me as a child and how he grew my fandom. I just wish his family, Kent and all of them, peace. And yeah, Mac was just an awesome color commentator, and he taught you so much about the game. And I just wanted his family to know how much we as fans respected him and Larry. And here in Central Iowa, everyone watched KDSM, Fox 17, and watched Mac and Larry because they were on 25 times a year, and they were just awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Doug, and I did want to talk about that this evening, Gary. So maybe this would be kind of a good segue into maybe giving your thoughts on Mac. I know my perspective is totally different than the 40 to 50-year-old fan, but I did listen to Mac during the Licklider era, and I remember that was one of the only positives. No offense to Todd Licklider, but hearing Mac McCausland on ESPN Plus, even during the early 2000s to mid 2000s, was a joy. He seemed like a really mellow guy and very knowledgeable about the sport. That was clear.
Yeah, I loved basketball. It's been a tough few weeks for Iowa fans with Mac, and some of them may not know. Doug Goodfellow was a guy on the table for many, many, many years. Really good guy. And then we lost our team photographer, Lloyd Bender, who went on all the trips and really an excellent guy. But Mac was one of the first guys I met when we came in '86, and you could see his enthusiasm and love for the game, love for the Hawkeyes right from the get-go. The only thing I had a problem with is my insurance rates kept going up and up, and I kept calling, hey, come on, you got to get those. I'm paying for your golf tournaments or what? My insurance rates are off the chart. But and I just saw him not too long ago at an Iowa game. So it was when I found out about it, it was a real surprise and very sad. He was a good man and a true Hawk fan. Just nobody loved Iowa any more than Mac did.
Another thing I wanted to bring up was Jordan's 10 threes. I thought Kingsbury would have that record forever for the single game. It's been a long time, so I was very happy to see Jordan break that record because I know he's hit 8 a few times. Yeah,
and I'll say this. We were reflecting while we were watching the game this evening just on the greatest three-point shooters in Iowa history, and certainly Jordan has struggled this year, Gary. And we can talk about Kingsbury. We can talk about Kent McCausland. Who are the greatest shooters in your mind in Iowa history? I'm talking about from three.
Kent still, I think, has the record for the highest three-point percentage in school history. I think he was over 50%. He was a terrific shooter. He didn't shoot a lot of them. He only shot the ones that were open. I mean, he was a smart player, and he had some players around him. But boy, if you left him open, it was done. He was a great pure shooter. Kingsbury had phenomenal range, great confidence, wasn't afraid to shoot him. So those two guys were really, really, really good. And Jordan is obviously in that class. He's done it for a long time. It's You can see the hard work has really paid off. So hats off to him. I think it's great, and you want to see him finish his final year. At least I think it's going to be his final year. You never know. Maybe he'll come out for year 7. Who knows? But you want him to finish strong because he's had some unbelievable moments at Iowa, and he's been very loyal player and good player. So good to see.
I'm just going to be completely honest, and I'll get ripped for saying this. And Gary, you and I talked about this after the last game on Sunday. All week, just thinking about the lineup change with Toussaint leaving the lineup, and I kept thinking to myself, it's just not fair to Joe. He didn't deserve to be benched. But at the same time, you brought it up on Sunday. You got to do what's best for the team. How much, looking strictly at this result, and I know it's anecdotal evidence, you could call it an outlier if you look at the rest of Jordan's performances, although, albeit again, when he's at the 2 majority of the year. How much do you attribute that change or the performance tonight to the change? How does it change things being at the point guard position for Jordan?
I think it definitely helped. He's got the ball in his hands more often. He looked right from the beginning in the last game that he was just more aggressive. So I think it was a great coaching move. I think it definitely had a positive effect, and the team has won 2 games, so it's hard to fault. And sometimes that's a move you got to make to see if you can shake something loose that can help your team win. I think Fran has shown tremendous patience all year. I think Rebraca has paid off. He struggled early, and not like he's some phenomenal player, but he just continues to play better and better, more solid. He's better now defensively. He's not getting beat as much around the rim. He's scoring better in traffic. He showed patience with him. He showed patience with Jordan. That's good coaching, and it's paid off. He deserves credit for that.
Eric asked the question, was this Iowa's most complete game of the year? Gary, I'm going to say no, because I think it was, I want to say that there were games where Iowa played better defensively, and that's maybe I'm totally off base.
It's tough to tell just because Maryland just did not play very well at all. Offensively, they were very good, but they just didn't get a lot of resistance today. It just there were so many baskets they got after Maryland scored that were easy. It was just it wasn't a great effort on their end. But hey, you can only do what you can do and how teams play you. So
yeah.
And you got to make shots. They moved the ball well. They hit the open guy. Offensively, I thought they were very good. Defensively, I thought in the first half they were just average, maybe a little bit above that. And I thought they did a better job in the second half of controlling the ball. But anytime you give up 13 threes, that's a concern. That's too many, even in a game like that. That'll get you beat a lot of times. Tonight it didn't, but. If I'm a coach, I'm showing them those threes, and I'm showing the defensive breakdowns. Hey, look, this didn't hurt us tonight, but it could very well hurt us against Michigan coming up in a couple of days if we don't shore that up. But offensively, they were terrific.
I get that Fats Russell is really quick, and Iowa had problems with him the first time, but back cuts and blow-bys. Mm-hmm. I mean, and again, I hesitate to even criticize the performance because I know everybody's on cloud 9 when you win by 23 on the road against a Big Ten team. But I was getting frustrated, and I think we saw that Fran McCaffrey was getting frustrated because he pulled Aaron Eulis out of the game at one point and put Joe Toussaint back in there. Is that just being over-aggressive? Because you and I have talked about that. At times, Iowa plays a bit too aggressive defensively, and it costs them.
I think a lot of teams get caught in the trap when a team hits a couple threes on them. They're going, uh-oh. And they almost extend too far. And then what happens is you got more court to cover, and now you give up more dribble penetration, and they get even more threes because you got to rotate and pinch, and now they're kicking it out for even better threes than they got before. So I thought at times they were almost too extended. You could understand why, because they hit a couple threes and they don't hit any more, but it's like, hey, get to the three-point line, maybe a hair above it, get your hand up, and that's about as far as you got to go. And if they're going to shoot a 3-4 feet behind there, then, okay. And then we'll see if they go in. But I thought at times they were even almost too extended, and it hurt them with dribble penetration and driving and kicking and things like that. And I thought it was interesting. I actually went back and I charted the first half, and I came up with they made 6 threes. Maryland did. They were 6 for 8. So they scored 18 points on threes. They made 5 layups. So they scored 10 points on layups. That's 26 points. They made 7 free throws. So that's 36 points. So 36 of their 41 points were threes, layups, and free throws. They only made 42 points. They only made 3 baskets that were 2-point jump shots. And that's what you got to get teams to do, is beat you with 2-point jump shots. And I thought in the second half they did a better job of that. Less layups, less threes. And that's what I look at, is what shots you're giving up around the rim and from 3, and then how contested are they. You know, sometimes you do a great job and you're contesting the shot and they just make them. And hey, that's okay. You just don't want to give up the uncontested threes, and obviously you don't want to give up the uncontested layups. I did think Iowa did a pretty good job of not fouling, especially when they got the ball inside. I think that was an improvement. But I think the big thing right now is being able to control the ball and keeping it out of the paint. I think they still struggle guarding the ball one-on-one, which is the most difficult thing to do defensively. I mean, it's a tough thing to do, but I think that's the area that they've got to shore up as they play these better teams.
And it seems like Keegan Murray has really been, I mean, again, we'll have to see moving forward, but it seems like he's cleaned up his, I called it kind of a handsy issue where you get these cheap fouls. He's not getting in foul trouble now, Gary.
Yeah. And you can see it's paying off with him on the court more and doing more and more things. No, he's a smart kid. You figured he was going to figure that out just because, he wants to be on the court. So sometimes you get into a rut where you just get a little too handsy, and you got to see where it's happening and then try to clean it up. And he's done that. He deserves credit for that.
All right, this is going to be you'll have to think about this for a second, and I'm sure I know what the answer is, but have you ever seen a stat line, or have you been a part of a game where your team shot very close to double the number of double the amount of threes as opposed to free throws? As far as I'm talking about attempts, Iowa shot 34 threes as opposed to just 21 free throws, and nearly shot better from 3. Iowa shot 56% from 3 and just 62% from the free throw line. Now, again, I understand it's one game. 62% from the free throw line. I mean, you can shoot worse, but kind of struggled a bit from the free throw line. Have you ever been a part of a game like that?
I'm not sure. I tell you what, shooting 21 free throws while attempting 34 free throws tells you how good their offense was.
Yeah.
It tells you that when they weren't getting threes, they were getting shots around the basket. And that's what you want offensively. If you're trying not to let that up defensively, obviously that's what you want to do offensively, is get open threes and get shots around the hoop where you can draw fouls and have a nice balance. And that's exactly what they did tonight. And that's how you put up 110 points. You just you shoot a real high percentage. I'd love to know how many layups they made. They probably had 20 layups in that game, maybe more. And you're not going to draw fouls from the 3-point line. You got to draw fouls driving and posting up. And so to get 21 free throws attempted when you shoot 34 threes, that's a pretty remarkable stat in itself that shows you that offensively they were really efficient.
And I think what you said earlier, Gary, about really examining a defensive performance on tape, because if you just look at score, I think you and I would probably both agree that Iowa played better defense once again in that second half than they did in the first half. And yet, you look at the score line, and Maryland scored 41 in the first, 46 in the second. But again, understanding the fact that Iowa took a 37-point lead at one point, that plays into it. And again, I flash back to the Rutgers game. I thought Iowa played good defense against Rutgers. I also thought Rutgers missed a lot of gimmies. They couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in that game, and you factor that into play. So, again, I think Fran does a good job of this in general, not getting too high or too low based on a result. And I think that's a perfect reason why, correct?
Yeah, and I think the defense was better at the beginning of the half. It may not have been very good at the end when he had to substitute and those guys come in and they haven't played much. And then the other team there's no pressure. So those shots are a lot easier to take when the game's already been decided. So I think that's a little bit skewed. I thought for the first 8 or 10 minutes, when the lead went from whatever it was at half up to 30 something, I thought their defense was a little bit better in the beginning of the half, and the last 10 minutes, I think you throw out, it was, it's pretty much garbage time from there.
Yeah. And I will say this, you look at the team stats in this game, we mentioned turnovers. Iowa just 9 turnovers, just 12 for Maryland, which is interesting. When you see 110 on the board, you anticipate a bunch of sloppy play. And it got sloppy for a little while in that second half. But if you flash back to that first half, Gary, we're talking about the defense. I mean, Iowa ended up being up by 37 in the second half, but that was a close first half. Iowa had a problem pulling away for a good stretch of that, and eventually did get a comfortable lead by halftime. But it was a close game the majority of the first.
Yeah, and they just shot unbelievably to get the lead. I mean, it was if they had just shot okay, it would have been or even good. It would have been a competitive game in half. That's how well they shot in the first half.
Charles says, agree with Coach Close about Jabo. We've been very critical of him this year, myself included, but the last 2 games specifically, he has shown up better defensively as well. And he adds, question for Coach Close. Iowa seems on track to make the tournament. Where do you see them possibly being seeded? And given where the team is as of today, how far could they realistically go? I know it's a loaded question, Gary.
Yeah, they're putting me on a spot there. They're probably right now. I think they showed on the telecast today at 8. I mean, they're just in right now, 8-9 seed. So they've got work to do. Obviously, if you're an 8-9 seed, you're going to be playing the number 1 seed in the second round, and that's not an easy task. So, but hey, what you're trying to do now is you're trying to improve. You're trying to get as many wins as you can get. You're trying to be playing well, in March when it really counts. And they're on the right track on that. They just got to continue to get better and continue to pile up wins, and maybe their seeding can improve. A lot of times in NCAA tournaments, it's got a little bit to do with matchups, but it's got even more to do with how you're playing. I mean, if you're going in there playing well and playing confidently, that certainly helps. It's not a guarantee, but you'd like to be playing well. You like to be healthy and maybe get a favorable matchup. And we see it all the time where teams get hot and make a run. So that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. I can remember one year at Wisconsin, we got knocked out in the Big Ten tournament, first game, and we didn't play that well. And we knew we had a pretty good team, and then we end up making a good long run deep into the tournament. So this team's got a chance. They just got to keep getting better, and they made a nice step tonight.
Will we start seeing Peyton Sandford a bit more? 9 points tonight, 3 of 3 from the field. Are we going to start seeing him more minutes as the season goes on, do you believe?
Right. I think the rotation is pretty well set. And I think part of it will be, he's just going to go with a guy that's playing well. I think some of those guys, it's going to be based on how they're playing. The other guys, obviously are going to play majority of the minutes because they've proven themselves. So I do think Bohannon's minutes have gone up, and I think that's also helped him with his shooting, that he's a little more comfortable on the court. He knows he's going to be in there. And I think that's helped as well.
This is an interesting note here. So Charles brings up minutes. Eula Sandford with 14, Perkins with 16, Joe T with 18. So Perkins starts and Joe Toussaint ends up with more minutes. And we've talked about that dynamic. And boy, if somehow that change did ignite Jordan Bohannon, we'll see if it continues, because we have seen inconsistency from Jordan over the past couple of seasons, especially this year. But if that continues and you can still get Joe T his minutes while starting Jordan at the point guard position, which seems like he's most comfortable at, boy, that's you found lightning in a bottle on that move. If you're Fran, you alluded to that earlier.
Yeah, and I think those minutes are not going to change a great deal, and I think it's going to be I think it's going to be more on gut as who's playing well, and maybe matchups will have something to do with it. How they played in practice. I think all those guys are just battling to get minutes and going to kind of go with the hot hand. I think the guys that have proven themselves are going to. I don't think those minutes are going to change much. I think it's going to be more the guards that we talked about and Sanford. I think it's going to be more how they're playing and things like that that'll tweak the minutes a little bit, but I don't think they're going to change a lot.
Kurt says, was rewatching the 87 Elite Eight tourney game against UNLV. Got a few glimpses of Coach Close on the Iowa bench. That game still breaks my heart to this day anyway on Iowa.
Breaks my heart too.
Do you think about that game, Gary?
Oh, that game was unbelievable. I was at Stanford for 3 years with Tom, and we never made the NCAA tournament. It was a tough rebuilding program, and then we leave to go to Iowa. And the first year we go to Iowa, we go all the way to, and we're playing. I'm in the locker room at halftime. I was like, my God, we're 20 minutes away from going to the Final Four. And the first trip to the NCAA tournament, I said, man, this is easy. Why do people say it's so hard to get to the Final Four? And of course, we were, I think we were up 15 or 16 or 17. And Kevin Gamble gets his third foul right in the beginning of the half, and guy gets loose and makes a bunch of threes, and all of a sudden, UNLV was number one in the country. I mean, they were really good, and we just played an unbelievable first half. And but we had a chance with the ball to win the game and didn't get it done. Hell, we'll be back. I mean, this is it was disappointing, but it's so hard to get there that when you do, you got to take advantage of it. But that was a terrific basketball team that really came together with just the first year, and it was really a memorable year. One I still look back on a lot. It was a blast.
And Lemansky adds that you do not age, Gary. But I want to ask you,
computer.
As it relates to heartbreaking losses, because you have a different perspective, because you went on to have a lot of success at Wisconsin, as we all know. So my question is there a game, people bring up the UNLV game or the Jacksonville game. I mean, is there a game in your career that stands out as the hardest to swallow? Was it one of the Final Four trips for Wisconsin?
Well, I would say it'd be either that game or the Duke championship game that we had a chance to win it all. And I thought we were the better team, and we won't go into it in depth. I thought the officiating was unbelievable. But
we can go into it in depth.
That's for another day. That's for another day. But we could have won despite the officiating. We didn't play particularly well, especially the last 10 minutes, and let a chance to win it all slip away. I really thought we had the better team. We had beaten Kentucky 2 nights before, and they were number one and undefeated, and beat them fairly soundly. And I thought that was our year. And the year before, we're up one with 6 or 7 seconds left against Kentucky. And I can't think of his name now, the little guard who had made a 3 all day, and we're figuring he's going to drive it to, because they're down. I think they were down 1. Anyway, he shoots a 3 from like 3 feet behind the line and makes it. And so they beat us, and they end up losing to Connecticut. That was the year Connecticut won it. And I thought if we had got that game, we might have won 2 championships back to back and didn't get either one. So I'd say either one of those 2 games or the UNLV game at Iowa are the 3 probably toughest ones to take. It's funny how you remember those more than you remember the ones that you win.
Yeah, I'm obviously I wasn't around for for your heyday here at Iowa, so I kind of have a naive but sort of a unique perspective, I guess. Like I get to learn here on the show with everybody else, but I think of Iowa football 2015, Michigan State loss in the final seconds. That's probably in my lifetime, and I've watched Iowa football and Iowa hoops my entire life. That's the one game that stands out the most in my memory, and it was a loss. That's just,
yeah.
And I'm
don't
not
forget them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that 86-87 team was terrific. I mean, you go back and look at it, see how many of those players were played in the NBA. But they were very, very unselfish. We played 10 guys. Great chemistry. we were very lucky. Coach Raveling had arranged a foreign trip that you can take every 4 years, and that happened that year. So we were able to take, because we were new, we had a chance to get 2 weeks of practice, 10 practices in, and then got a couple weeks playing. It really helped us for them to get an idea of what we were like, and we to get an idea of what they were like in our system. And I don't know if a lot of people know that Brad Lohaus wasn't going to play. He was going to retire, and we encouraged him, hey, come on out, go on the trip with us. You get a free trip to Korea and to China. And hey, then if you don't like it when you get back, then you can do it. And BJ was thinking about transferring, didn't think he could play at that level. And so that trip really helped us. If we had not had that trip, maybe those two would not have been around. They went on the trip, had a great time, liked what we were doing. And of course, those two went on to have long NBA careers. Tevin Gamble had a long NBA career. Les Jepson played in the league. Roy did a little bit. Eddie, I mean, it was a talented team that played hard, played well together, and we had a chance to really do something. It was we were close to getting the Final Four. And that was the year Indiana won it, and we had beaten them badly at our place early in the year, and they beat us very late in the year to win the Big Ten championship in a really close game. So I would have liked our chances if we had gotten that far, but unfortunately we didn't. So
I'm curious though, going back to you mentioned BJ, and I've heard that before. I think you and I have discussed that before in the past, maybe off the air, but the BJ situation where he was thinking about leaving and you guys convinced him to travel with you overseas and eventually got him to stay. And of course that was during the coaching transition. But my question to you is, why did BJ, because he was going to go to Eastern Michigan, correct?
Yeah, he was, he just didn't think he could play at the level. He had like a lot of young kids coming in. It's a big jump from high school to the Big Ten. And, I'm sure he had some ups and downs and some tough moments. And I think there's some doubt. I think he was wondering if he was good enough to play at that level and play to the level he wanted to play at. And so, with a coaching change, that's when, one of those kind of things can happen. And we watched enough tape on him to know that he had a chance. And hey, look, we don't want to lose anybody. We want everybody there. So, hey, give us a chance. Let's go on the trip. Let's see what happens. But we had a very deep team. Michael Reeves backed him up at the point guard. He was solid. Jeff Moe backed up Kevin Gamble. He was really good. We had Gary Wright and Eddie Horton at the 5. We had Lorenzen and Lohaus at the 4. So we were really deep. So we could wear people out, and it was a fun team to watch and really good basketball team.
All right, I want to kind of take the last couple moments here, Gary, of the show to transition a little bit to the tournament, but I see a couple comments here in the chat that I want to address regarding the bubble. Okay, so my first question is, would you rather be a 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 seed? Because I have an opinion on this. I think you'd rather be an 11. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, probably. I mean, as a coach, you never really look at that kind of stuff. You just want to get in.
Sure.
And then deal with it. I would say, with 11, then you're going to avoid the 1 if you're able to, get past the first game. Obviously, you're going to play a little more of a difficult opponent in the first game, but I think the first goal is to get in, and if you get in, you're happy. And sometimes you're not happy with your seeding. There's always controversy there, but first goal is to get in, and then from there, see who you're playing and go from there. But it's a wonderful time of the year. So hopefully Iowa can get enough wins that they can be in the mix, because there's nothing like March Madness.
Oh, absolutely not. And Jordan brings up the bubble is sort of weak this year. There aren't a lot of bid stealers from I don't know. Again, if you consider the West Coast Conference, I don't have the data in front of me. I think typically the West Coast Conference is going to get a couple teams in with St. Mary's and certainly BYU and Gonzaga. But the bubble is weaker this year. And Iowa, I've said it this whole time. I know you brought it up earlier in the year. If they're 10-10, I think they're in. If they get that Ohio State game back and they're 9-11, we'll see. The schedule, again, this is, you got Nebraska coming up on Super Bowl Sunday here, Gary. And I got the network wrong. I believe that's BTN at 1 o'clock, so I'll correct that here. But, you take care of business there, and Iowa's, because what are you sitting right at 500 now? You're sitting at 6-6. You're ahead of schedule, and you've already played both your games against Purdue. You do have to go to Illinois, but you get Nebraska twice. You get Michigan, who's been struggling twice. You get Northwestern. I'm telling you, it's the conference is tough, but the schedule from here on out is not murderer's row.
No, it's not. But it's you got to take, it sounds cliches, but you got to take them one at a time. It's you start thinking, oh, I got that one and that one, and then somebody knocks your butt off, and then all of a sudden, whoops, and then then you're dealing with it. It happens all the time. I think most people would have thought that Ohio State goes in and wins that game. Has a good chance of winning that game last night, and they had it, and then they let it slip away. And there are going to be games like that Iowa's going to have to finish. Because these other teams are in the same boat. Northwestern's playing better. They're playing better. They're starting to finally figure out how to win instead of losing all those games that are close. So that's not going to be a walk in the park. Michigan is in that bubble category now too, so they need wins badly. That's a team that was phenomenal last year, Final Four team. They got guys on that team that played in the Final Four. So it's not murder's row in terms of having to play Purdue and maybe Wisconsin and teams like that. Or they got Illinois, but it's still going to be competitive, and they're still going to have to play well. They're not, it's not like you're going to play badly and beat these teams. You're going to have to play well, and but that's that's what you want to do. If you're not playing well, you're not going to last long in the tournament anyway. So, but they are in good position now. They just got to take advantage of it.
And they're, they do play Michigan State, but they get them at home. And that game against Ohio State, likely be. There were reports that it was going to be next week. It sounds like that is not happening. The Big Ten, of course, making those decisions, but there will likely be a 5 to 6 day stretch where they have to play 3 games to make up that Ohio State game.
Yeah, and that's where that bench is going to be important. That they'll have a stretch if that game's rescheduled where they'll might have some games like 3 and 5 days or something like that where they're going to be tested. So players like that though, and that's less practicing, and they don't have a problem with that. So coaches don't like it maybe as much, but they're all over it. That's easy. They play 3 and 4 AU games a game. What's 3 games in 5 days? They can handle it.
A lot of people bring up that 87 squad. And boy, Eric's a big fan of Sir Jam-a-Lot. I know we've talked about him in the past. And there was another comment here about Eric mentioned, he said the 87 team had what it took to win it all. Would you?
We did. Yeah. There's no doubt. Yeah. If we could have had that team a little bit longer, although we were certainly in position to do it, but to go as far as they did, in the very first year, and, Brad Lowehouse had not played a whole lot prior to that year. Kevin Gamble had never even gotten off the bench. And now all of a sudden he's a starter, but it really did come together, and Coach Davis did a phenomenal job. And that Big Ten year, that year was loaded. There were some Indiana ended up winning it all, but Illinois was loaded. Ohio State beat us at home, cost us the Big Ten championship. They were loaded. Dennis Hobson. There were some phenomenal teams in that league. Great coaches, Knight, and it was an unbelievable Gary Williams, unbelievable basketball year. That was, and we were right there. It was a lot of fun.
One final note on this evening, and again, I'm nitpicking here. One little criticism I had of Fran. I thought he left Keegan Murray in there too long. I thought when you're up 35.
Oh, come on, Corey. My goodness.
Am I wrong? No?
I don't know. I did. By that time, I was Mac McCausland would say, I already had the chips and salsa out by then, so I don't even remember when he took him out.
I was just thinking with 12 minutes to go in the game, I thought, boy, you hate to see something bad happen here. I know you can't play that. I mean, something bad could happen at any point. But boy, when you're up 37,
yeah,
you're not coming back from a 37-point deficit. I don't care if I don't care who you're putting out on the court with 10 minutes to go or whatever it was. So, but a couple good notes here, and one of them, I lost the comment, but somebody made the note of maybe Fran saw something from home when he was watching the game. Did you ever?
Patrick said it was a lot quieter on the bench.
It was a lot quieter. We did hear that comment from Patrick.
I love that.
Did you ever have did you? I know you were never suspended, but did you ever get sick and have to watch a game from home as a coach?
No, actually, the only game that I had to watch from home, my mother died right in the middle of the season, and I had to go back to New Jersey for that when I was at Wisconsin. And I watched one of our games. I think we were at Minnesota, and I had to watch it from home, and that's tough to do. And I can't imagine being the head coach and having to do it because it was tough enough as an assistant. It's not easy, and I'm sure Fran doesn't want to do that again. And fortunately, they had a great second half and won the game. So, but no, that's not an easy thing to do.
And it was Garth that brought that up. Do you have a different perspective when you're at home, though? I mean, can you kind of look at the game in a different way without all the distractions or maybe the responsibility?
Yeah, I think so. It's obviously a different angle that you're watching from. Probably a little better angle to scout from and see what's going on. Yeah, I think so. It is a little bit different. So there is some truth to that.
And final comment from Twins +1. Yes, Jordan Bohannon heating up at the right time, and that couldn't be any closer to I mean, that is the best development. If you're an Iowa fan, Jordan Bohannon finally getting out of what I guess you could call it a slump. He's just struggled all year from three, Gary. And if this can become, I'm not expecting him to make 3 a night, but you need guard play in the tournament, as we know, and Iowa's got to be able to make threes to be successful. And boy, you put up 110 on the road in the Big Ten. Again, that was ignited because of Jordan Bohannon's 3-point shooting. So just really encouraging to see him come out of that slump tonight. Confidence
goes a long way. When you're a confident player, you got a better chance of playing well, and that's got to help his confidence. He's not going to make 10 every game, but hopefully he'll make a good percentage of his open looks, and that's all you can ask.
All right, folks, Iowa, Nebraska on Super Bowl Sunday. The game was moved up, so it'll be at 1 p.m. Central Time on FS1. And, maybe a bad time to be playing Nebraska because they just got their first conference win the other night, although part of me would rather Iowa play them after winning a game. You feel like you're playing with fire, playing a team who's 0-13 in the Big Ten, because eventually they're going to get off the snide, and they kind of already have done that, Gary.
Yep, that is done. They're not going to go winless. They just got to come out and play their game, play solid and play hard and take care of business and keep improving. Every opportunity is a chance to get better, and that's what they got to think about. They got to get better defensively, better rebounding, better handle the ball if that's possible. Just get better, and because you want to be playing the best you possibly can when it really starts to count. Hopefully, they'll be playing some meaningful games down the stretch and into March. So, starts with a good effort on Sunday.
You absolutely cannot lose to Nebraska at home, Gary. I mean, that's just, you cannot
That's
afford
it. That's not going to happen, Corey. Not going to happen.
Okay. Gary, as always, appreciate the time, sir. And we'll talk to you. Will we talk to you on Super Bowl Sunday? Or are you going to be knee deep in cheese dip?
Wow, I don't know, man. That's let's see. What time is kickoff? Yeah, we should be okay.
5, yeah.
You might cut into a little bit of my Super Bowl pregame, but
I think the game was originally at 3, so we'd been doing the post game at 5 initially. Would that have been what we would have been doing? Because the game was initially scheduled for 3. We would have been going on the air at 5. Would anybody have been passing up on the Super Bowl to listen to us talk about an Iowa win over the Huskers?
Maybe a few diehards, but you might have been doing it by yourself.
I would have been just talking to myself. I've done that before, Gary. By the way, Michigan leading number 3 Purdue 38-29 at halftime on ESPN. So perhaps an upset in the making in Ann Arbor. Gary, appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you
Corey.
on
Sounds
Super Bowl
good.
Sunday.
Yep.
All right, for Coach Gary Close, Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm, you all have a great